You're on your third lap around the vice president's residence at 2:14 a.m. when the night suddenly explodes with gunshots from beyond the fence. You sprint toward the house with your weapon drawn as radio screams that the vice president's family is under attack inside the residence. You clear the house room by room and reach the master bedroom where the shooter is aiming at the vice president's wife and child. You fire twice, dropping the shooter instantly, then move to secure the room while the family sobs behind the door. Outside, you kneel beside your wounded friend Martinez, pressing hard on his chest wound as sirens fill the night air. By 4:47 a.m., you stand in the Situation Room still covered in blood when the president himself promotes you to lead his personal protective detail immediately. Suddenly, you are the lead agent for the most targeted man on Earth, and the weight of that responsibility settles heavily on your shoulders. The first week is brutal as you review over 3,000 active threat files and meet the entire 38-agent team under your command. When the president wants an unscheduled public stop, you respectfully push back and suggest a safer option to protect him from unnecessary risk. You adapt quickly, learning his every habit and vulnerability while riding in the armored limo and scanning for every possible threat on every route. The chief of staff asks you to quietly remove a suspected mole inside the White House, but you refuse to cross that line and suggest proper surveillance instead. The mole leaks minor details, causing a dangerous 47-second exposure in Chicago, where your team barely stops a lone gunman from attacking the motorcade. At 3 a.m. in your hotel room, you replay the close call over and over, wondering if compromising on the mole almost cost the president his life. On foreign trips, you become the president's shadow, physically moving him away from danger in crowds, while cameras call you overprotective. You catch yourself in the mirror and notice your eyes have grown harder as the constant weight of protecting the most targeted man changes you deeply inside. You become the president's constant shadow, learning every habit and vulnerability while physically repositioning him when crowds get too close during foreign trips. In Denver, you spot a drone threat in the crowd and order immediate evacuation, saving the president from a potential explosive attack. In New York, you personally tackle an insider with forged credentials before he can reach striking distance during a high-risk appearance. Sleep becomes rare and friends drift away as you live in permanent gray, realizing one mistake could end everything you were sworn to protect. When the president demands risky, unscheduled stops, you argue firmly inside the armored limo that your only job is to keep him alive to serve. During the re-election rally, shots ring out and you throw your body over the president, taking a graze to the arm while your team evacuates him safely. In the hospital, the president visits and thanks you for saving his life again, but you feel the growing weight of every close call and lost agent. Your word now carries real power in sensitive briefings as you sit with CIA and FBI deciding security measures that shape national policy. On the Truman balcony, the president tells you that you are the reason he is still here, but the words feel more like chains than validation. You return to your quarters, remove your earpiece, and stare at the wall, knowing tomorrow the schedule restarts and the weight will never leave your shoulders. Years pass, and you become the longest-serving lead agent the president now trusts like family and shares his deepest secrets with you. The burden grows crushing, so you start carrying antacids and sleeping pills while reviewing threat reports alone at 2 in the morning. You look in the mirror and see harder eyes with gray at the temples, realizing the man who once believed in clear lines of right and wrong now lives in permanent gray. Some days, protecting the president feels godlike, but most days it feels like carrying an entire building on your shoulders every single hour. You stand on the Truman balcony at night, knowing the country sleeps peacefully because you never do, and that is the price of this power. Credible intelligence reveals a high-level inside betrayal plot targeting the president during the State of the Union address, forcing you to make the hardest decision of your career. You pull the president aside 30 minutes before the address and convince him to cancel the event based on your gut and the intelligence you trust completely. Later that night, on the Truman balcony, the president thanks you for saving his life again, but his words feel more like chains than praise. You return to your quarters, remove the earpiece, and stare at the wall, knowing the role never truly ends and the weight will always remain on your shoulders. In the mirror each morning, you see harder eyes and gray hair, realizing the man who once believed in clear lines of right and wrong now lives permanently in the gray. Every day you ride in the armored limo, scanning every route and every face, knowing you are now the final line between the president and death. Foreign trips and endless threat reports leave you exhausted as sleep becomes a luxury and normal life slowly slips away from you. Your recommendations now carry real weight as you veto risky foreign visits and coordinate with intelligence agencies to keep the president safe. Years of service turn you into the longest-serving lead agent, while the job quietly takes away your personal life piece by piece. At dawn on the Truman balcony, you watch the sun rise over the city and accept that this role has become your entire life, with no escape. You now coordinate entire operations from the command center, making split-second decisions that protect not just the president, but the stability of the nation itself. Your personal life slowly disappears as you sit alone at night, looking at old family photos, realizing how much this job has taken from you. Your advice now shapes major security decisions in the Situation Room, and the president listens carefully because he knows you have saved his life multiple times. Walking past portraits of past presidents at night, you feel the enormous weight of history and understand you have become part of that same legacy. At dawn on the Truman balcony, you watch the sun rise over the city and accept that this protecting the most powerful man on earth is now your permanent and unbreakable destiny. You ride in the armored limo every day, scanning every possible threat while the president sits across from you, trusting you with his life. Foreign trips drain you completely as you sit alone in hotel rooms at night, surrounded by threat reports with almost no sleep left. In high-level briefings, your voice now carries real authority as you advise the president on decisions that shape national security. Late at night, you look at old family photos and realize how much this role has quietly taken from your personal life. At dawn on the Truman balcony, you watch the sun rise over the city, knowing this duty has become your permanent and unbreakable destiny. You now run high-level operations from the Situation Room, making decisions that protect the president and influence the security of the entire nation. Nights are the hardest, as you sit alone with whiskey and threat reports, realizing how completely this job has consumed your personal life. Walking past portraits of past presidents, you feel the enormous weight of history and understand you have become part of that same unbreakable legacy. On the Truman balcony at night, you look over the sleeping city, knowing the country stays safe only because you never truly rest. Every morning, in the mirror, you see a harder man with gray hair and understand the role has changed you forever, with no way back. You become the president's constant shadow at every public event, scanning every face and every movement to keep him safe from hidden threats. Inside the armored limo, you respectfully push back when the president wants risky, unscheduled stops, knowing your only duty is to keep him alive. Foreign trips drain you completely as you sit alone in hotel rooms at night, surrounded by threat reports with almost no sleep left. On the Truman balcony at night, you look over the city and fully accept that this duty has become your permanent and unbreakable destiny. You remove your earpiece at night and stare at the wall, knowing tomorrow the schedule restarts and the weight will never leave your shoulders. In the Situation Room, your decisions now carry enormous weight as you coordinate with the president and top officials during major national security crises. At 3 a.m., the guilt returns strongest as you sit alone staring at old family photos, wondering how much this job has truly cost you. You stand in the Oval Office, giving the president honest advice, even when it risks tension, because your only duty is to keep him alive. Walking past portraits of past presidents at night, you feel the deep weight of history and understand you have become part of that same unbreakable legacy. At dawn on the Truman balcony, you watch the sun rise over the city and quietly accept that protecting the president is now your permanent destiny. You ride in the armored limo every single day, scanning every possible threat while the president sits across from you, trusting you with his life. The pressure never stops as you sit alone at night, reviewing endless threat files, with antacids and sleeping pills becoming part of your routine. Each morning in the mirror, you see a harder man with gray hair and understand the role has permanently changed who you are inside. You walk beside the president as his constant shadow, carrying both the power and the crushing loneliness that comes with protecting the most targeted man alive. At sunrise on the Truman balcony, you watch the sun rise over the city and quietly accept that this is your destiny now and forever. You now have the authority to veto foreign visits and insecure venues because the president trusts your judgment with his life completely. Even on Air Force One, you sit alone at night, staring out at the clouds, carrying the constant weight of protecting the most powerful man alive. At the end of long days, you remove your jacket and earpiece, feeling the heavy exhaustion that has become your normal way of life. You remain the president's shadow during every public appearance, scanning every face and every movement to prevent the next attempt. On the Truman balcony at night, you look over the city and accept that this duty has become your permanent and unbreakable destiny. At dawn on the Truman balcony, you watch the sun rise over the city, knowing the country sleeps safely only because you carry this weight every single day. You remove your earpiece at night and stare at the new day beginning, realizing this role has become your permanent destiny and there is no escape.